Hey, patrol members, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Tales and Mysteries of the Mojave Patrol. No Tales and Mysteries of the Mojave Patrol would be complete without a mystery about the Mojave. And I have several for tonight. One involving a cryptid, a legendary cryptid found in the Mojave, and another more pedestrian one about old traditional flying saucers. So let's get started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into our cryptid, our cigar for today is a Maduro from the Dominican Republic with a famous brand of motorcycle, Indian Motorcycles, 1901. Now, this is like a gimmick cigar. I mean, the Indian Motorcycle Company didn't make this cigar. But we're going to try it. Boy, that's a harbinger of doom. It's not even lit. Wow. I smell the motor oil. I don't smell anything like that. Don't have any motorcycle smells. It does draw easy. It draws easy, which means, depending on how you smoke it, it could smoke hot. So you want to take it easy. That's pretty good. We'll get to that in a sec. It's kind of got an earthy tone. Right now it's pretty mild. I'm not going to smoke it too fast. I don't want any canoeing, and I don't want it to be hot. You don't want to smoke a cigar too quickly. If you don't have time to smoke a cigar, don't start smoking it. I know for some of you nicotine fiends out there, that's a tough thing to do. but I'm waiting till the afternoon. It's totally overcast. It did drizzle today. It is 69 degrees outside and 50% humidity, and it is 5:32 in the afternoon. I'll put all the metric, or I'm sorry, metric. Metric is for the metric system is for people who don't know how to do math. I'll put all the pertinent times and temperature down here. I might even put the Martian time down, considering it is Halloween. Did any of you guys see John Carter from Mars? Or John Carter? I knew the movie was going to be a flop because the books that the movie is based on are two books out of the John Carter series by Edgar Rice Burroughs that were written in the 20s. And nobody knows who the hell John Carter was. I thought the movies were outstanding because they followed the first two books very closely. But nobody from the 2000s has probably read those books. Now that we have a cigar going, what whiskey do we have for tonight? We have Stillhouse, America's Finest. All right? This is Stillhouse Black Bourbon, a masterful blend of corn, rye, barley, and limestone water, barreled in charred New American oak, charcoal filtered, rested, and mellowed in roasted small batch coffee beans, giving a uniquely complex balance and a smooth finish. Blended bourbon whiskey mellowed in coffee beans. It is 80 proof. Produced and bottled by Stillhouse Spirits Company, Columbia, Tennessee. Actual Tennessee whiskey. Stillhouse was born to create a new standard for American classics. We elevated the craft of distilling to deliver superior taste and a remarkably smooth finish. We house our spirits in 100% stainless steel so they're ready for any adventure, able to reach the places that maps don't mention. Because that's where the amazing happens. Welcome to America's finest territory. You know what's coming. Warning!
Warning! Warning! Warning!
According to that Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. Consumption of alcoholic beverages impairs your ability to drive a car or operate machinery and may cause health problems. Please enjoy responsibly. That's up to you. Okay. Let's get this seal off here. No hiss. No crackle. That is a very unusual aroma. To be honest, more industrial than anything. I have another one of our unusual little beakers. And let me pour us a draught. Wow, that's actually a little thick. Close up there, close up. How does that look? That looks very nice. That's got a very nice dark color. To ghosts and ghouls and things that go bump in the night. Boy, for being 80 proof, it doesn't have a lot of a hug, but I'll tell you what, that is nice and smooth. That is, wow, wow. That is exceptionally smooth. I am very happy with that. I'll have 2 of those tonight. The Mojave Desert is vast and unyielding, brutally hot in the summer, and almost Arctic-like in the winter. I have camped out in the Mojave in January where it is dipped below 12 degrees Fahrenheit. The water in my canteen froze overnight inside of a building, or an old miner's building, where we had an old wood stove going. Next to the stove, you're warm. 3 feet from the stove is below freezing. Yeah. There's been a lot of strange things seen out in the Mojave Desert. A lot of weird stuff, kind of sounding like Han Solo here. But one of the least documented and the least encountered is Yucca Man. Never heard of him? I'm not surprised. Yucca Man has been around since the 1960s. Very, very poorly reported upon. Native Americans have legends of Yucca Man. Not really as a supernatural being, but a very large, hairy creature with brown hair, basically very similar to Sasquatch. Yet Yucca Man roams in the more mountainous regions of the Mojave Desert. Believe it or not, yeah, closer to water sources. And there have been a number of sightings in Joshua Tree National Park. Yucca Man has been encountered most often by military personnel at 29 Palms and Fort Irwin, mainly because those areas are very remote and way off the beaten path of your average individual. People who camp, motorcycle, guys riding dirt bikes and side-by-sides, you can't go onto these military reservations. So, unless the soldiers are training, those areas are relatively unmolested. Places like China Lake and things like that. The first real documentation of Yucca Man happened in 1970, where a Marine guard at 29 Palms missed his check-in. So, of course, when you're in the military and you're on guard and you miss your check-in, they send someone out there to find out what happened. This young Marine, who was apparently about 19 years old, was found unconscious, suffering from a severe blow to the head. He ended up with a concussion. And just like a movie monster, his M16 had been bent in half. Was wrecked. He was taken to the base hospital where he remained unconscious for like a day and a night. Diagnosed with a severe concussion. When he did awaken and they asked him what had happened, he told the story where he was at his guard post. It was night, and he heard movement out in front of him when a tall being or creature, about 8 feet tall, approached him. He ordered the creature to stop, and it did not. So he discharged one round from his N16 at the creature. Then the creature rushed him, knocked him down, and struck him. And the next thing he knew, he woke up in the hospital. There have been similar encounters with other Marines at 29 Palms. Not physical, but where people have seen it. As a matter of fact, right here you'll see the only existing photograph of Yucca Man, and I can't vouch for its authenticity, but it was taken by military personnel at 29 Palms. The creature has also made its appearance at Fort Irwin, in the remote sections by the Avawatz Mountains, and up there by Goldstone Tracking, and where at China Lake, they all intersect up in there. Very remote areas, very remote. Usually infrared. When they're using infrared and night vision equipment, they've spotted large creatures out in the desert. Not a lot. It's not like every time, but they've been spotted there. So, a young couple camping in Joshua Tree were sitting outside with a campfire, and it was a very bright moonlit night, and they heard shuffling noises off in the desert. And when he shined his flashlight out into the desert, the creature, they swear they saw a large, hairy, brown creature run off into the night. Now, later that night, when they went to bed, they heard something moving around outside their tent, and they felt something running its hand along the fabric of the tent and pushing on the tent and making a huffing sound. And it was tall, because the hand motions that were on the top of their tent. So I doubt it was a wild pig. You know, they don't usually stand on their hind legs and touch stuff. Are they real creatures? I don't know. I've been in the desert a lot. I've never seen one. Unless you can say the time I set up a trail cam, and something triggered the trail cam about a half a dozen times in the middle of the night, yet nothing showed up on the pictures. I saw nothing. The camera was just triggered. So, was the creature just beyond the camera's vision? I don't know. For all I know, it could have been a ground squirrel. But I've never seen anything like that. It's easy to imagine if you're late at night, if you're looking out on the moonlit desert and it's a little breezy and you see a Joshua tree. Sometimes Joshua trees can look like people. As a matter of fact, there's an Indian legend that states that the Joshua trees can walk. They will move around on their own at night in search of water. Never seen that happen, but that's what the legend is. So next time any of you go out to Joshua Tree National Park and camp, keep your eye peeled for Yucca Man. He just might make an appearance. Have you ever seen strange lights in the sky? I know I have. Especially out in the desert. On one occasion, when I was with the Army, my last few months in the Army, stationed at Fort Irwin, while we were out doing a training mission, my whole company saw a mysterious red light moving in and out around the peaks of the Avawatz Mountains. We were later told by our commanding officer that it was the lights from a searchlight battalion out there. Well, I don't know about any searchlight battalions. I've never seen any in all the training I did. Not once did they ever co-train with a searchlight battalion. And this light was so brilliantly red and moving in and out behind the peaks, blacking out and reappearing. I doubt it was a searchlight. The other mysterious light we saw in the desert once, me and a couple of friends, was where we normally camp, about 10 miles away, is a canyon. And I know you're going to say, Bill, that was 10 miles away. You know, in the desert, when it's clear, 10 miles looks pretty close. It is very difficult to judge distance on flat terrain without a reference. All right? And from where we camp to the base of the mountains, according to the map, is approximately 10 miles. I'll put down how many leagues that is down here. We were just sitting around the campfire, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and it was very, very dark. There was no moon. And we didn't have a giant campfire. We only had a couple of those Presto logs for your fireplace, you know. And it was around this time of year, maybe a little later, when all of a sudden, up inside the canyon, was a brilliant light. And I'm talking about a bright light. The light was so bright that the shadow of the mountains between us and the light were easily discernible. And the light lit up the mountainsides on the other side of the canyon. As a matter of fact, if you had stood up and turned your back on the light, you could have easily read a newspaper. Needless to say, we were astonished. And the light slowly moved down the canyon until it got to where the canyon emptied out onto the desert floor, and this brilliant white light came out of the canyon and in a straight line slowly moved along the base of the mountains until it kept heading south and disappeared from our view. We didn't sleep all that well that night. That's my stories. But since time immemorial, Native Americans talk about the lights that walk the mountains out there. UFOs have been seen out across the desert for decades. So let's talk about George Adamski. George Adamski was an immigrant into the United States from Europe. And he fought for the United States in World War I and was a decorated soldier. But in his later years, he started becoming interested in the UFO phenomenon. He claims that he was contacted out in the California desert by Desert Center by these tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings from Venus. And he took several photographs of their ships. Some of them are quite remarkably clear. And over the years, he was contacted by these creatures on several occasions, telling him that they only have Earth's best interest at heart. They're trying to warn us about nuclear war, about mankind's violent proclivities. And he would give lectures. And he wrote books. And these lectures would draw hundreds of people. As a matter of fact, at Big Rock, out here in the California desert, was an airfield, and there was a giant UFO convention there in the 60s. He even claimed to have been contacted by the United States government wanting to talk to him about his contact. And he even produced a letter from the government. Now, the FBI and several government organizations told everybody the letter was fake, but George Adamski, until his dying day, claimed that the letter was real. So, who do you believe? Now, I know that creatures from Venus is far-fetched because, according to scientific research, Venus is uninhabitable. But one of his followers out in the desert, and you can go there now, out in the Mojave, built a building, was in the process of building a machine that was going to reverse aging and allow people to move through time, called the Integratron. And he said that he was building the machine based on some old biblical works, Nikola Tesla's works, and the information he'd received from the Venusians. Go out there yourself and check it out. It's called the Integratron. I think it's part of a national park right now. It's being preserved out there. It's not some derelict, junky thing. It's right off the highway. You can drive right up to it. And that's not the only mysterious thing in the desert. About 60 plus years ago, on a mountain peak out in the Mojave Desert, there appeared this giant steel apparatus that looks like two megaphones bolted together. And to this day, no one knows how it got there and who built it. Yet it's there. And that's just another thing you can go visit. It's very remote, and you have to do some mountain climbing to get to it, but many, many people have been there. Unfortunately, They've been decent human beings, and they haven't destroyed it. Because, most abandoned things in the desert are wrecked by reprobates and ne'er-do-wells. You can't have anything nice without people destroying it. Or painting it. A lot of helicopters flying around here today. The Desert Megaphone, I think it's called. Let me recharge this. Many people have remarked on me eating the match. It's something I've been doing with used matches for decades, so it's not a big mysterious thing. But let's flash forward to very recently. Very recently, triangular UFOs were spotted over 29 Palms military base. Now, having been in the military and been in the artillery, I have run a lot of illumination missions where they fire flares off, illumination rounds. Illumination rounds do not hang in the air steadily in formation. They drift like this, slowly going down, leaving trails of smoke, and after a minute or two, they burn out. They don't hang in the air for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So I know this triangular formation of UFOs was filmed, but I haven't been able to get a copy of the video, except for this poor copy right here, and a few stills that were taken at the Marine base. And the Marines interviewed said that these objects stayed suspended in the air for over 10 minutes and then just flew up and away. They were gone. As a matter of fact, just a few days ago, an almost identical formation of objects were seen over Langley here in the United States, Langley military base. I mean, if you look at the two photographs, they're almost identical. And not too long after that, well, not too long before that, I think March 17th of this year, a group of strange lights moving through the sky, leaving phosphorescent trails, were filmed right here in the California desert. Now, when you see this video, you're going to think it's meteorites, which is fine. But you have to notice how flat the trajectory is. Meteorites don't travel long distances horizontally. I've seen a lot of meteorite showers. They streak across the sky, they come straight down, and they burn out in seconds. Tell me what you think. So what do you think? Meteorites? Objects re-entering the Earth's atmosphere? I'm sorry you're not hearing any sound with them, because the guy filming it was just spewing profanity like, "What the F? What the F are those things? What are those effing things?" You know, I don't mind a little profanity, but you know, like, it's Halloween, trick or treat time. We really don't need to hear that. About a year or so ago, there was a young, like the Yucca Man people, there was a young couple driving from Montana to California, and in their they had a pickup truck with a camper on the back. Recently married, and they stopped at a very remote campground at this place called Tabletop Mountain. Now, to be honest, I've never heard of this place, but apparently that's where they stopped to spend the night. They were sound asleep in the camper when they were awakened by a loud humming noise and a brilliant light. And when they opened the curtain and looked up, above their camper was a brilliant light. Now, this is going to sound really familiar if you watched last year's video. Very similar to the Sutton Farm. They said that little gremlin-like men with luminous eyes and silver bodies floated down from the object and started knocking on the side of the camper. They rocked the camper. They were scratching at the door. And these people were totally terrified. Totally terrified. The husband was able to access the truck cab from the camper. Now, when you have a camper that's part of a truck, you can option that. You take out the slider, and there's a boot that goes around the back of the truck to keep the weather out, and you can access the camper from the cab of the truck. And after about 10 minutes of this rocking and moving, he crawls to the window and starts the truck. And the second he starts the truck and turns on the headlights, the creatures scatter, and within seconds the light moves away and leaves them in the dark. And needless to say, they beat feet out of that place and headed for their destination, which was someplace in the San Fernando Valley. So what do you think they saw? Was it really the same thing the Suttons saw? And when I was reading this article about this young couple, there were no references to the Suttons. That's the conclusion I came to because I was familiar with it. Anyway, what do you think? Yucca Man. Real? UFOs. Real? The government says they're real. Well, they call them UAPs now. But the government says that there's something there that they can't explain. As a matter of fact, one of the creepiest things I saw about UAPs was there was a Senate hearing at the Pentagon where the senators were invited by the Pentagon to be briefed on the UAP situation. And when one of the senators was asked on the news what was going on, he just looked at the report and said, "I'm really not at liberty to speak about it, but if I were you, I would stay inside at night and lock your doors." Now, if that was a joke, it was a frightening joke. And if that wasn't a joke, it was even scarier. Will that stop me from camping in the desert and traveling there? No. But tell me what you think in the comments. Real or not? George Adamski. Crackpot? Integratron. That guy did a lot of work for no apparent reason. I mean, he was really secretive until he passed away, and his family revealed all this stuff. The young couple in Joshua Tree, were they frightened by Yucca Man? The young couple at Tabletop Mountain, were they terrorized by the little gremlin creatures, the same little creatures that terrorized the Sutton family? What did the Marines see at 29 Palms? What did the soldiers, what did the military personnel at Langley see? What did the soldiers at Fort Irwin, what did they see? What did we see? Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. And once again, to ghosts and ghouls and things that go bump in the night. Later, Mater.
I bring you a warning. Every one of you listening to my voice, tell the world. Tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the skies, everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.